Hey guys, welcome to Piano Rogues. I'm Ari.
And I'm Alaire.
So today we are
doing a notation episode on
Moonlight Sonata's first movement. So, what is the full name of this sonata?
Sonata quasi una fantasia.
Opus?
Opus 27, number 2. Looks like it's dedicated to Julie Guicciardi.
Oh, yes. That name!
Oh, yeah, that name. We know that name. We recognize that name.
So, we have this big word at the top of the page. What is this?
You mean this one?
Not this one that I just put my hand across.
You mean this one?
Yes.
Okay, Adagio Sustenuto. Mm-hmm. It means that we should play slowly and keep the sound sustained. So Adagio means slowly and the sostenuto is the sustained part. Adagio is a tempo that is not as slow as lento or largo, but a little bit slower than andante. Andante is walking speed. I help.
So how much slower than walking speed?
A little. A skosh. I don't know. I don't have tempo markings like the metronome number that goes with it memorized. I'm sorry.
Okay, then there's a little sentence underneath that. What's that about?
Okay, so I don't speak Italian, but the basic gist of this sentence, tutto questo pezzo delicatissimamente e senza sordini.
Ooh, I have idea. What? Google Translate.
So basically this refers to the sustained pedal. Oh my.
You have to unpack this whole piece very delicately and without deafness, without muting.
Interesting. Right. Okay.
You have to play this whole piece delicately without darkness.
So, I got this. The whole thing should be very, very delicate. This one right here, always pianissimo without sordini. Oh gosh. Budhole says, so slower than a little speed and sustained.
Apparently.
What did performers do before Google Translate? Music dictionaries.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I am not a walking music dictionary. I am sorry, I don't remember direct translation of this sentence, but basically what it means is that we are to have the sustained pedal down the whole time. The whole thing should be very, very delicate, but we don't want it to be dark or heavy.
Or muddy.
Well, okay, but the muddiness wouldn't have been an issue on a piano from Beethoven's time.
I was going to mention that we talked about this in our Beethoven episode.
The pedal on a piano of Beethoven's time was quite a bit different from what we have on modern pianos. The strings stopped ringing a lot sooner, and so it didn't, like the pedal made everything kind of blend together, but because they all faded away so quickly, nothing ever had a chance to get too muddy as you changed harmonies. What would happen with this one, if we were to just leave the pedal down the whole time, is by the time we got to like the third, definitely by the time we got to the fourth measure, all we would have is cacophony.
You want to show them?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, so pedal down the whole time. Here's what happens. Everything goes well for the first measure or so, and then this happens. Happens.
What we end up having to do with a modern piano to get the effect that Beethoven wanted is something called fractional pedaling, where we don't completely depress the pedal, we only partially depress it. And every so often as the harmonies change, we have to let the dampers come down and touch the strings just a little bit so that the dampers brush the strings and momentarily stop them from vibrating, but still keep everything smoothly connected.
How do you know when to release the pedal?
Oftentimes your ears will tell you. If you're playing music and the harmony changes and you've got the pedal down and it sounds really icky or really muddy, then that means you need to release the pedal and then press it down again so that you can clear the harmony. And basically you're going to stop the strings that were vibrating from the old chord and then press the pedal down for the new chord, fresh.
Ucky is the official term.
Ucky, yes. We're going with ucky. Yeah, you go with what sounds better. Sure, I mean, it's music, and music is all about sound. And, well, okay, but I should say there is plenty of piano music where the composer is very particular about when to press the pedal and when to release it. And there will be special markings, special pedal markings that will show you.
But that was not an issue for Beethoven at this time.
That wasn't a thing for Beethoven so much. So this piece isn't a good example of that.
So we have numbers. Our fingering, right? 1, 3, 5, 3, 3, 3, 3.
Okay, so these right here, those are numbers, but these are not.
So the top ones are for fingering.
Mm-hmm. Generally, fingering numbers will be on top above the notes. Numbers that are for other purposes will be underneath notes or above notes, basically anywhere on the inside of the measure. These are telling us that each beat is being divided into 3 pieces. So you can see that there are 3 notes here, and the brackets I'm putting around them are indicating the beat grouping.
Simile?
Yeah, simile. That means that we should continue in the same fashion. So you notice how all those 3s disappeared? It's just telling us, so all these 8th notes are still dividing by 3.
Okay. They changed fingering.
And that is because the notes changed. So this set of fingers is going to work better for this set of notes, and for you also take into consideration a lot of times what comes after. So this set of fingers will work well for these 3 notes, and then when they change over here, it will be a smooth transition for your hand because you can then use these fingers instead. So guys, that's actually something I have to talk to my students about a lot. Choosing the correct finger pattern. The thing is, you have to take into consideration not just what you're doing right there in that moment. Sure, fingers 1, 3, and 5 might work really nicely for those 3 notes, but if you've got something higher than 5 that's coming up right after that note that you've got 5 on right now, that might not work. You might need to use different fingers. You have to think ahead so that you can make the best plan in order to have the best chance to play the notes accurately and comfortably. Although that's kind of secondary sometimes.
So is this fingering the 5 and 4?
So what this type of marking generally means is that we're going to start with finger 5 and then we're going to switch to finger 4 silently. So if I was to start with 5 on B without letting the key come up, I would switch to finger 4. And the reason for that is so that I can smoothly move down to the A next and make it seem like I was always using finger 4 even though I wasn't.
Why not just use finger 4 to start with?
Excellent question, Ari. So, I mean, I can, but not everybody's hand is that big. And also we're coming from C sharp, so it's a little bit easier to go down with 5 than to go down with 4. Let's see. Budhole says, is there any times when you found something that is more comfortable for you that doesn't follow the numbers? And in that case, do you still follow the numbers? Okay. It depends. So everybody's hands are different. Sometimes an editor will suggest a fingering that just really does not work for you, or sometimes is just not actually good fingering. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what this editor was thinking. That doesn't make any sense. Why are we trying to do it this way? So yes, you can choose your own fingering
Strategically.
with a caveat. Yeah, strategically. If you are an inexperienced pianist, most of the time you'll want to assume that there's a reason why that fingering was written into that music, and you should really try it out and practice it that way before you change what was already written there. Strategic fingering. Mr. Orion! What was I saying?
Strategic fingering.
No, I wasn't. I was not. Mr. Orion said that. Okay. Focus. So you'll want to try what was originally suggested first. If you practice it that way and it's just not getting any easier, it's not getting any better, you think you found a fingering that works better for you, okay, then go ahead and change it. If you're working with a piano teacher, that's even better. You can bring your alternative fingering to your teacher, and your teacher may be able to say, yes, that's a good fingering for you, or no, this is why you should use this fingering. Do this instead. I would say yes, but with caution.
Because you might be teaching yourself a bad habit.
Yeah. A lot of times there is a reason why an editor says to do a fingering a certain way.
Okie dokie.
Shall we continue?
You know what we haven't addressed?
What? No, the 4 sharps. Oh, yeah. Okay. So 4 sharps. 4 sharps can mean one of 2 keys. It can either mean E major or it can mean C sharp minor. Now, this first chord in the first measure is made of a C sharp, an E, and a G sharp down here on the bottom. In the bass, we have 2 C sharps. So I will give you 3 guesses what key we are actually in. Remember, it was E major or C sharp minor. The first 2 guesses don't count.
F.
We're in C sharp minor. Also, we have this little C with a slash through it, a vertical slash.
I thought that was a bass clef for...
Nope, that is actually our time signature. So most of the time you'll see time signatures with numbers. You'll have a number on the top and a number on the bottom, right? And the number on top tells you how many, and the bottom number tells you what kind of note gets one beat, or, well, the bottom number really represents a kind of note. Let's not get too far into that. That's a whole discussion. Whole discussion. Okay? But in this case, instead of having a set of numbers as our time signature to tell us what to do, how many beats to expect, this is telling us that we are in common time, but it's cut. This is what we call cut time. So instead of 4 quarter notes in every measure, we have 2 half notes in every measure. And if anybody in there knows what a half note is worth, then they'll be like, well, wasn't that the same as 4 quarter notes because a half note is worth 2 quarter notes?
Yep, that's definitely what I was thinking.
See, yep. I know it was. For sure. And you were thinking it with that voice too.
Oh, yeah.
The reason it's different is because it tells us to put the accent differently. So cut time means instead of feeling 4 quarter note beats in every measure, we're going to feel 2 broader half note beats in every measure. We're going to feel 1, 2. And it's going to feel a little bit different than 1, 2, 3, 4. So every 2 of the triplets is a different pulse. Yeah. So basically the triplets are in a set of 6. They make a set of 6.
I think that covers... Wait.
What?
We have a natural sign.
Yes, we do. Oh, okay. So in the key signature, one of the sharps was a D sharp. This natural sign right here is canceling for the moment that D sharp. So instead of playing a D sharp, I play a regular D.
PP.
The bathroom's that way. So means that we should play very, very soft. It's very soft.
Not quite as soft as...
Yes. When you have 3 P's, would you like to pronounce it for us again? It means that you should be very, 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 very soft. Circle that.
Added sharps.
Yeah, so we have extra sharps. Actually, this one's not technically an extra. If you remember up there, we had the natural sign. So this one's like, oh, guys, by the way, don't forget.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's just
and this one is an extra.
Reminding us.
Yeah, that one's changing the harmony there.
Is that a rest in the middle of notes?
So actually what's happening here is Beethoven is adding a third voice. So we have this voice right here. This is going to become a middle accompanimental voice. Down here, we have our bass voice. And up here, we are about to add a melody voice.
Yes, that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, da, da.
Yep, that thing, exactly. That's actually the melody of this piece. So this sharp that's being added right here is actually kind of an important one because it's changing the B into a B sharp, which is an important note in the key of C sharp minor. It's the note that is a half step below or the closest possible distance to the C sharp. And so it creates kind of this pulling motion that makes us want to go back to that C sharp sound very, very much. It's called a leading tone, so that's actually a really important harmony shift right there. And sure enough, right there we go back to C sharp.
Tie?
Nope, that's a slur. So ties are curvy lines that connect two notes that are the same. Slurs are curvy lines that connect two notes that are different, and they tell us that they should be smoothly connected.
So we still have our third voice?
Yes, so we've still got a third voice going on. We have these triplets in the middle that are a constant thing. And we have, oh, that was supposed to be a square. Oops, it's a box. So we have those in the middle that are going to be constant pretty much. And then up above that, we've got this melody. And then down here, we continue to have our bass. And that's just how it's going to kind of be laid out for the rest of the piece.
What if there is a slur between two of the same notes? How could you tell?
There wouldn't be. Think about it this way, Budhole. What is the smoothest possible way that you could connect two notes that are the same? Don't pick it up. Don't repress it. Don't replay it. Just keep holding it down. And that's exactly what a tie tells you to do.
Mini notes.
Mini notes. That's an ossia. I've never actually seen that. That's interesting. I don't know if that's in my score. Hang on. Let me check. Mine doesn't have that ossia. Okay, so this is an alternative way to play this harmony, actually. That's interesting. But in the main score down here, the harmony right here changes to match my bass note, which is a B. So this changes to a B as well. The ossia says that you could also choose to keep your C, that was over here, for one more beat. And that would actually create a lot of dissonance against that change. That would be kind of interesting to see the difference.
Shall we?
Yeah, let's give it a try. Have this measure. I'm going to play it the way that it's originally written first. So that's what it sounds like if I keep the B. I'm going to keep the C for one extra measure. Could you hear the difference? Here. So that's the way it's originally written, and then the ossia says this.
I think I like the first way better.
The first way? I don't know. I don't know why that ossia exists. Like I said, I've never noticed it in any of the different editions of this that I've read. And it doesn't mean that they weren't there. It just means I didn't notice it if it was there in any of the editions I've read. Why would they add something not in the original score? It actually, if that ossia exists, that probably means they found it in a different version that Beethoven wrote out.
I would really like somebody to go through all of his letters to the publisher and see if the ones that are the mainstream are the ones that were the final version of his piece, because he was constantly in contact with the publishers saying, no, this is wrong, no, this is we want to change this or whatever. So there's multiple different, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of those just stayed.
And to be fair, It was probably not always negligence or a mistake on the publisher's part that they got something in his music wrong when they were doing the
Well, one of the
published
big
notation.
things was that Beethoven absolutely hated transcribing his own music.
Mm-hmm.
So he would write all the notes and have someone else make the final copy for the publisher.
So it could have been his transcriber who messed it up. It could have been his the publisher not able to read because it was too sloppy. Like, so they had to make their best guess about what it was supposed to be.
Or the transcriber, or the yeah.
Yeah, so they're not sure which one Beethoven really wanted. Yeah, that's entirely possible. Beethoven did not have neat writing. That's why I'm saying it was quite possibly not the transcriber's or the publisher's fault entirely. If something was...
Oh yeah, go look up Beethoven's...
Yeah, you should look at how he made treble clefs.
There's lots of naturals.
Yeah, lots of natural signs. There's a couple of little sharps in here.
Oh,
This
wait,
right
we
here.
have...
Those are fun. So these are little crescendo and diminuendo signs. The one that gets wider as it goes to the right is a crescendo. It means to get a little bit louder as you go. And then the one that gets narrower as you continue to the right means to get a little softer as you go. So Beethoven wanted to have a slight swell in the sound there. And then the same thing with this one right here. Okay, are we ready for the next page?
I think so.
This is honestly just more of the same here.
Yeah.
I guess actually there's this right here, the CRESC. So we have this crescendo. That's what the CRESC stands for. It stands for crescendo. So rather than drawing a huge me, can I draw it? Can I draw a huge me?
Sure. Go
Okay.
for the yeah.
Okay. So rather than doing this,
But and then the decrescendo is just
well, yes, the decrescendo would have been
that's barely any time to do anything. That's exactly how you should play that. Where were we?
We were talking about this. So instead of drawing the big, huge thing and then the little itty bitty thing, they just said with words.
Do decrescendos. Like, can you split that?
Split it. What do you mean?
Well, like, if I wanted to crescendo from here all the way to the next.
Oh, yeah, sure. But you'd probably have to draw the word out like this, like you would write and then a little while later you'd go and then a little while later you'd go do.
But like to the next line too?
Yeah, you can do that.
Oh,
You
okay.
just keep making little dashes to connect them all.
Look, there's a clip.
You mean soft. And then we have more crescendo decrescendos.
How do you crescendo
And still be playing pianissimo? Excellent question, Budhole. So it's more a spirit of the law kind of thing. I guess technically if we get louder, we're not truly playing pianissimo anymore. But it would be really boring if we never changed volumes at all. So you're not going to maybe get to a like huge loud sound, but the music is going to swell just a little bit. There was a double sharp in here. There it is. Double sharp there. Double sharp there. So double sharps look like little X's, and they mean to play instead of just 1 half step higher, like a regular sharp. This means to play 2 half steps higher.
and a sneaky.
Yep. We have
Sneaky.
Yes, we have a sneaky bass clef. So rather than trying to read ridiculous numbers of ledger lines underneath my treble clef down here, we just have a bass clef that's telling me to read these notes as if they were on this line down here.
Where do we go back?
Oh,
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, it goes back over here. Thank you. No, actually, here's a decrescendo that they didn't draw the whole word out because they weren't going to split it on the lines, but they have little dashes to show you over which span of time.
Until we go to.
Yeah, until we get to the and there's another.
Oh dear.
Page 3. Budhole says, I notice sometimes they just put the notes in the bottom staff, but here they just put a bass clef in the top one. Yeah. It'll kind of depend sometimes on which one's going to make it easiest to read. Is it going to get too crowded if they put everything down there on the same bass clef staff?
I think they could have fit it.
They probably could have in this case, but they chose to do it this way. I don't know, guys. I didn't make their decisions for them, okay? It's not my fault.
We talked about that in one of our previous notation episodes.
What?
That they had the left hand on the bass clef.
Yeah. So sometimes they do things one way when they could have done it another way. It doesn't mean the other way would have been better. It just means they chose to do it this way. Sometimes they do things one way when it would have been better another way. I don't know. They don't always do the best job at editing or writing things out. Is there a rule for if the notes should point up or down? Yes, actually there is. It depends on how high or low they are on the staff. So this note is not a perfect example because it is in a separate voice from all these guys. So the bottom voice is going to have the stems pointing down. The top voice is going to have the stems pointing up. That's because we need to show the division of those two voices. But
Normally.
Thank you. normally we would have this middle line be the dividing line. Any note that is on this line, oops, thank you. Any note that is on this line or above would have the stems pointing down.
Down.
Yes, any note that is on this line or above would have the stems pointing down. And any note that is in this space or below would have the stems pointing up. And the idea is to have the notes stems be as on the staff as much as possible.
Okay, we have crescendo and a
The means that we should play softly. That's a piano mark.
I saw dot and
the dot and the dashy do. Right. That sounds like a children's storybook. The dot and the dashy do.
and there's a dot over here too.
Okay. Did you just at me? My makeup's making
If
me.
I want to.
I can if I want to. I can your friend. I don't want to your friend.
Don't my friends behind.
Oh no! That went a direction I did not mean for it to go very quickly.
Ouch, my poor stomach.
Anyway, where were we?
At the.
It's just one. It's not.
But
Okay,
the dot
it means
and the.
Oh, the dot and the dashy do. We keep getting distracted.
There's a dot and a dash. What is the dot and dash?
So when you have a note that has a dot next to it,
Show the dots. Boop the dots.
I will boop the dots. Is a boop and a boop. When you have a note that has dots next to it, that's very important. Next to it, not above or below. Next to it. That lengthens the note, okay? It actually lengthens it by a mathematical amount. You have to do some math. So, for example, when you have a half note that's worth 2 beats and you add the dot to the half note, a half note worth 2 beats, if you cut it in half, then you get 2 pieces that are worth 1. So, half the half note is 1. So you add 1 to the 2 and you end up with 3. That's why a dotted half note is worth 3. This one is an eighth note. It's got a little stem, it's all filled in, and I just made it really hard to see it, but there we go. It's an eighth note. So half of an eighth note is a 16th note. So we are adding the amount of a 16th note to this eighth note, which means this part over here, to fill up the rest of the beat, is another 16th note.
Which is why it has the dash.
Which is what that dash is, yes. So, yes, this total amount right here, the eighth note plus the dot, which the dot being worth a 16th note, yes, that is longer than the 16th note by itself.
But would be equivalent the dot by itself.
Yeah, the dot by itself is equivalent to a 16th note.
Dots don't live on their own, though.
Yeah, dots do not live on their own. They are always attached to a note. We have a and a. This one means to play softly. That's piano. And this one means to play very soft. That is pianissimo. And then we have another. I'm not doing the sound effect.
We have words.
Oh. Attacca subito el seguente. So that's gonna go. That means to go right on to the second movement as soon as you're finished with the first movement.
Oh, wait, we have a do.
Oh, a do! It's a squiggly-doo, guys. One more squiggly-doo. That's called a fermata. It means hold me.
You have a dog.
Fermatas tell us that we need to sustain the note longer than it is normally sustained. So this whole note would normally be worth, well, in this case, it's worth 2 long counts because we're counting in half notes, but
And we have a tie here.
We do, yes. This is a tie. Here you go, Budhole. That is an example of a tie. We've got
Is that
2...
a sharp in the middle of the tie?
Yes. So we are
that's
adding
the
this
other-
note. Yeah, we're adding this note.
That's not confusing at all.
No, it's not. We are adding this note while we're still holding this one down. Does the decrescendo after the decrescendo mean just keep decrescendoing? Yes, it does. Budhole, it does mean that we just keep getting softer. In fact, we keep getting softer all the way until we get to...
Well, why not just say decrescendo here and dash across? Or put this a second time?
I would think that this is meant to be more gradual, and this is meant to be a little bit more rapid. Also, I would probably have this decrescendoing to this point, and then have this be just a little bit louder again, and then decrescendo from there, because this is kind of a tonal arrival point. This is where we get back to our C sharp minor for the last time. This right here, combined with that and the key signature change, those things all indicate, oh, and there was a double bar line at the end of the other one. Those things all together indicate that this is in fact a separate piece. It is the second movement in the sonata, and that last thing that we were talking about, the attacca, that tells us that as soon as we lift our fingers from that final chord, we would go immediately right on to the second movement.
Don't forget to...
Please like and subscribe to our YouTube.
Thanks
for letting us steal your screens
for a while.
Stay Rose!